Grade paint, creating an aged green patina effect. In this video, we're going to take the Tiffany grade paint as our base, and we're going to create a faux finish to make it look like a traditional patina was done. So the Tiffany green paint here that I'm putting into the mixing cup is a great base. It's a beautiful kind of seafoam green, but I like mine a little bit whiter, a little bit more pastel. So I'm going to add some white and then I'm going to thin it down a lot. And I'm not really measuring it out, I'm just kind of mixing it out to where I like it. The one thing I will note is that you want to go really slow with that great paint thinner. It will, you can put too much into it and then it gets a little chunky. So just go nice and slow with the thinner, and I try not to go past 50-60% because then it kind of gets a little weird. So usually just about 25-30% is a normal thin amount, but once you get that color that you like, then you can move forward. So here we can use a seafoam or a sea sponge and then a microfiber towel, and this has brass B on it. This is a resin cast, and we're going to go forward with our sponging. So we're just going to go in, and what I want to pay attention to are the crevices first. Now all I'm trying to do is get it into the crevices, and you can do this with a brush, you can do this with an airbrush, however you want to get it on there. I'm just using a sea sponge because I find it very easy, and I can use the same tool for later on. But essentially I just want to get into those hard to reach areas first, and I'm wiping off the excess. And so you can see on these first two eyes where I'm just focusing, trying to nail it in there, and then I'll wipe off the excess. And it leaves a little bit of a haze, but that's okay because that plays into our look. I'm not too worried about it leaving the haze. Overall, I'm just going to try and get in and get into those hard to reach areas and put a lot of color in there because I want that color standing out. Want a lot of color, and that's the trick to the faux finishes, that you need to think about how this thing would have naturally aged if it were left outside for 20 years, right? So even if this is something that's touched a lot, the green or the color that's inside the recesses wouldn't be touched. It would want to kind of pop out and be. Now everything ages differently depending on where you are or where you're from, but I'm just creating something that in my mind this is what I want it to look like. So while you may do yours a little bit different, that's all fine and dandy. That's art for us. So this is what I envisioned in my head, was something that had bright colors in the recesses, like the colors hadn't been disturbed. Even if it was rained on, it wasn't going to be bothered, right? That's where all the water and therefore the minerals are going to settle and want to be. But then I pull off all the excess on top. And that's completely fine too. It wouldn't be a bad look if I just left the brass B sitting out and then having the green on the insides there. We can also accomplish that with brass C and Tiffany green though, and it might be easier that way. But for this one, I want it to kind of have that it's starting to take over natural look. And I will build that later. I just want to pay attention into the deep areas that will be harder to get to once I start layering on the base that's going to give me that faux finish.
You know what?
So pay attention to the hard to get areas first, because you can always go back in and fix the high rises or the highlights later. But those deep areas are hard to fix and get to later once you get going with everything else. And we're going to just fast forward here. I've kind of done all of the recessed areas, and you can see it's a little hazed over and everything, but now I'm going to go in and do my base color. So again, I wasn't worried about that haze. That haze actually helps play off this look, right? It kind of lets some of the brass show through, but it doesn't look like regular brass. And I didn't do anything other than kind of putting it on and wiping it off. But now I'm sponging it on, going to let it be for a minute, and then I'll wipe off some of the excess as well. And I'm still wiping some of the excess off because I don't want the sponge look. I want it to leave a little bit of texture on the surface, but it's drying naturally that way. So you can see I'm kind of dabbing with the sponge and then dabbing with the microfiber towel, and that's giving me that look. Since I spent more time earlier working on the recessed areas, now I can kind of just dab it all over and have fun with it and get that look to kind of come together, because I know in the recessed areas that's already kind of popping out. That's going to be there because it's dried and it's in there. So I don't have to worry about it as much. I can just kind of get the color around those areas to look the way I want to. And you don't have to put it on and take it off. This is just the technique that I wanted to use to try and sell this look. I think thin down colors and building up that kind of patina look makes it so much more natural. Because if we just put a bunch of color on there, it's going to look like paint. And I know this is called great paint, but you know, if we're going for a faux finish, that's not the look we want to do. A good faux finish fools people. So building up that color and getting it to look like the real thing, it takes time, it takes patience, and it really just takes practice. Putting on the right amount, thinning the right amount, and building up the right amount. But overall, these are some great colors to do it with. So these are the same techniques almost that I use with the Smart Stains when I do it with Smart Stains. The downfall is that with Smart Stains, you know, I can go as a hot process, and I can go thin, and I can get the colors to go just right and build that up and everything. But there's no pulling off with the Smart Stain. If I did it as a cold process, the colors would just wipe off. With this great paint, it's thicker, so it wants to grab onto the material a little bit better, so I can play with it. I can pull it off and put it back on just a little bit, and you can see some of the colors stay, but some of it not stay. So it gives me a little bit more flexibility when I'm trying to do this. I still love the Smart Stains for everything that they are, but the great paint is a very easy faux finish when you really kind of learn how it works. And so that's why I started doing it this way. So we'll go ahead and finish doing up a few little things here and there. I wiped off a little excess in some place, so I'll go back and touch up. But overall, this is looking pretty darn good. We'll go a little bit more, and then we'll get it into the studio and take a picture of it. So here is our final piece with the Tiffany green with the thin down and a little bit of white great paint on it, and that's our faux finish. You can see some of that brass coming through, and it looks great. But if you want to age it up just a little bit so the green's just not so pronounced, I'm going to use the Patina Stains. And this is something that I did in my Smart Stain video as well. And so I'm going to go in with 3 colors. I use the yellow, the brown, and the verde Patina Stains. And it works exceptionally well, where it just kind of ages it up a little bit. And you got to go back with the verde at the end, because otherwise it starts looking really drab. So that brown, really kind of ages, brings a little bit more of that non-ferrous metal coming through. But the verde helps bring that green back. You see how it's kind of starting to look a little bit more aged than we want? It's really selling the look. I think it looks good. But I do want it to still look green, and that's where the verde comes into play. The Patina Stains are meant to nudge the color, so do be careful not to go too much, or once again we could kind of mess up our faux finish look. So go nice and slow, little touches, little movements at a time, let it dry between layers so you can see what it's going to do. But overall, a little bit of green helps pop that back into the range we wanted it to be. But I think it really helps kind of sell this faux finish look. A few extra steps, but overall I think it's pretty worth it. So here we have our final piece after we've done all of our Patina Stains, and you can see a little bit more of that non-ferrous metal coming through, and I think it really gives that look like it's starting to age a little bit. We kind of let nature do its thing. Great paint is available on our website at www.sculptnouveau.com or by calling us at 760-432-8242.